Hey everybody, greetings and welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back here on day 4 of the series I'm doing, the mini-series we're doing, which is my favorite bands that have family issues. So I use the word family issues because when you're in a rock group, especially if you're in a rock group for a fairly lengthy time, people, you see them more than anybody else in your life, so it becomes almost like a tight-knit family. In a lot of cases too, I think that a lot of these guys were friends before they became a rock band, or they knew each other, or they were in that community and they got to know more about each other that way, and they formed bands and they played together and they're rehearsing all the time, so they really get to kind of know each other. So that's part of the reason why I chose that term. Also, it's not such an aggressive term, which I'm happy to say is what I was intending. So, anyways, the band we're going to do today has been one of my favorite bands for a very long time. They started in 1969, and they continue and just actually released another album this year. So they are active still and still producing new stuff and still very much on the playing field. So, as to my own history, Yes came aboard after my initial wave. So my initial wave, which included, many of you know, Styx and Queen and Black Sabbath and Rush, and then some other bands I listened to here and there. That was from, probably started in 78, went through to about 1980, and then Yes was part of that newer, the second kind of wave of groups that I got into. And they came on in 1980 with the advent of this particular album. If I can just get it out of here, my stack here, this one. This is where I came in. Of course, the band came in here on this album, which is their debut album, which featured John Anderson, Chris Squire, Bill Bruford, Peter Banks, and Tony Kaye. That was the original band on this particular album. And this was the album I came on, which featured Steve Howe, Chris Squire, Alan White, and the two members of the Buggles, Trevor Horn and Jeff Downs. So, and then I went back, and they've had multiple success. They became the band that they wanted more to be on this album, the Yes album, and then they released this, which had their biggest hit at that point in time, roundabout. And this is considered their best album of all time by most people. I mean, it's not necessary to have this as your favorite if it isn't, but it's considered by most to be their best album. This was their return to glory, return to fame, if you want. And this album probably caused the most problems with the band and the band's history, and the current problem that we're going to discuss today. And they've also just come out with this album, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good, I have to say. So, having said all that about them, my history started there in 1980. They quickly moved up and became one of my favorite 5 bands, and then after Rush's Signals album, I kind of drifted away from Rush when they got to release the Grace Under Pressure. I didn't like it, and I moved away from them, and Yes took over their spot and became my favorite band, and were my favorite band until my daughter's birth in 2001. And after that, they began to lose some cohesiveness because I wasn't listening to them much anymore, and Rush slowly asserted itself and took back over, and it's been that way ever since. So that's my history with Yes, as far as how they fit into my overall scheme. So, where did I put my notes? That's weird. I don't even see it anywhere. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. I don't need them. I pretty much know what I'm going to say. So that's kind of the history of them in general, and then my own personal history with them. So the problem occurred on the album I said, Union, when two factions of Yes, to speak, came together. The Trevor Rabin, Chris Squire, Alan White, and Tony Kaye group merged with the Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe group. Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe had put out an album which I think is one of the best, if not the best album they've put out since Drama. But it wasn't a Yes album because they couldn't use the name because the Squire group had the name. So anyways, they decided they would kind of try to merge this thing. And this is not a good marriage, but that's what they tried to do. So they put this thing back together and tried to marry the album. And the album itself isn't that bad. I've listened to it. I don't mind it. It's a pretty good album. But you can understand the conflicts. There was a lot of stuff that was rearranged, and John Anderson had some stuff to do with that. And I think he may have built up some resentments from some of the other members. Bill Bruford just simply decided that was enough after that. He didn't want anything to do with it again, and so he left again. But Steve Howe stayed on, and then in, I believe it was 2008, in that period of time, 2006, 2007, 2008, John Anderson had health issues and couldn't tour with the band. So rather than wait until he got over his health issues and then, toured again, they decided to replace him with Benoit David, a Canadian artist. And I can see his bitterness about that. I don't think he's bitter about it, though. I think he just doesn't understand why they went and did it. And I can see why he's upset about it. I can definitely see his point of view. However, I see the other guy's point of view too. He's a difficult guy to work with. He really is. He likes to be in control. He likes to take charge. He likes to do things his way. And for the most part, he's done a pretty good job of that. There are some things that he does that bring in parts of his own personal music that, although I don't mind it, I don't think it's Yes, but he tries to play it off as Yes in some ways, and I think this is something that Steve Howe in particular had an issue with. I don't know any of this for a fact. It just appears to be that way. So I'm not advocating Anderson's point of view or Steve Howe's point of view. I'm just pointing out my own observations of it. And so at that point, he did get better and he was well, but they never invited him back into the band. And they've gone on, and they replaced Benoit David with John Davidson, who I do like quite a bit. I think he's a very good vocalist. He has a lot of the similar range to Anderson, and even at times I do hear a lot of Anderson's style in him too. But that's, I know, of course, blasphemy to the John Anderson fans, who will absolutely lambaste me for saying such a thing. They say he sounds nothing like John Anderson. I don't know how you can say that. I've listened to Yes for now going on 40 years. To me, yes, John Anderson's voice is distinct, but Davidson isn't that different from him. He's not. So you guys got to get over that. Anyways, so they've released a few albums with Davidson, Earth and Fire, I believe. Heaven and Fire, Heaven and Earth. I knew I'd get the right elements in there somewhere, which did not do well and is considered to be one of their worst, if not their worst album. But they've released A Quest, which was a little bit better. That's not really saying much, although it did have that one song, the opening track, which I thought was the best thing they've done in a long time. And then they've put out this album this year, which is better. I don't think it has that one killer track like Quest has, but it has, the music's a little heavier, the music's more Yes-like. And overall, I think it's a better album. Only time will tell if it's going to stand the test of time. I'm not sure. So, anyways, I know that John Anderson would like to come back to Yes. And I think he wants to, but I think Steve Howe, and, I'm not going to argue with Steve Howe. He's my favorite member of the band, has been one of my favorite guitarists and one of the people I've enjoyed the most in my history. I will never side against him, but he doesn't want to take on this again because he thinks it'll just be a ton of weight, and he just wants to be happy doing what they're doing. He enjoys the music they're making now. He likes the band and doesn't want to rock the boat. He wants to keep that going, and John Anderson, he feels, would come in and probably create a problem because he's likely going to try to bring Wakeman back in as well, And, I like Rick Wakeman. He's a funny guy. I love his music. I love the stuff that he's done in Yes. Do I think that would be nice to have him and Anderson and Steve Howe and some of these guys doing Yes stuff together? Yeah, I think it would be nice. I think it really would. I think it would be maybe better than what they're doing, but it's hard to say, right? It really is. Because they haven't really done anything great in a long time. Maybe the last album that I really enjoyed by them was these ones here, which I can't remember. Keys to Ascension. But the two Keys to Ascension albums are pretty good. I do like them quite a bit. I could kind of like, if they were to get back together with with John and Rick, I would think that would be my aspirations, that something more like that could come out, which would be better than some of the stuff they've done in recent years. But if they don't get back together, I do like John Davidson. I think he's a good singer. I like the band. I just wish the music was a little bit more like it was in the past, but they're not living in the past, so why should I? So anyways, either way, it would be nice. I don't see Steve at this point taking this on. So then my question becomes to people who are serious Yes fans, what happens if something happens to Steve? If Steve were to, for some reason retire, or something happened to him and he was gone, how would the band continue? Would it continue? Would the members that are currently in the band have the say as to what happens next? Like it is with the Guess Who, and some other bands who have had a lot of their original members move on and they've got different members in there. Would it be their say? Or does this revert to the next senior member, which then of course would be John Anderson? Then it would become John Anderson's Yes. Is that something that could happen? I don't really know. But I'm not hoping to find out either, because I like Steve Howe. I really think he's one of the great guitar players in the history of rock. He's my favorite, so I'm biased, and I make no apologies for that. So for me, Yes, great band, lots of stuff, huge discography, 23 albums, plus their live stuff, which is seems to be endless. And I enjoy them quite a bit. If you haven't seen my video on ranking their albums, you can go and watch that as well. It's in my ranking the albums of Yes. I guess it's in my ranking category. So if you want to see that, you can do that. And I hope that at some point it would be nice if Steve and John could kind of maybe just have a sit down and say, listen, I'd like to do some Yes with you, and you'd like to do some Yes with us, and we would like to do that. But it has to be under certain circumstances and has to be under a certain way. And if you can live with that, that's great. And if you can't, then I understand and we won't do it. That would be nice if they could do that. But if it doesn't happen, that's fine. I've enjoyed the huge discography they've had, and I will continue to. And I hope you guys will enjoy what they have been doing as well, not just their old stuff too. So anyways, I don't have really much else to say. I think my opinion's pretty much been said here. A great band, and I'm going to be doing a live stream on this band on Saturday. So I'm starting a new live series, one that's going to come out Saturday, and the first topic and the first question will be, is Yes the greatest prog rock band in history? That's going to be the question. Maybe it's a loaded question, and maybe it isn't. It gives everybody a chance to weigh in. Are they, or do you have somebody else you think should be put in there in that spot instead? And it's not a question of who's right or who's wrong. It's just an opportunity to discuss and talk openly about the bands we love so much. And progressive rock is my life, and I love it, and I love these bands. Yes, no exception to that. They were my favorite band for a long time. They're number 2. That's not a bad spot to be in. And I hope to see you for the live stream, which will go probably at noon on Saturday. I don't see there being any change to that. And we will see you. We'll see you then. So please like and subscribe. Put your comments below, and we'll see you next episode. Take care. Bye.